legacy. So if you guys are looking to be an entrepreneur, start your own company in music, you're in the right place. If you have any friends that are looking to do the same, send them this link, get them here. We have a great panel, and it's all moderated by Carolyn Ortiz. I'm going to welcome them to the stage. Enjoy.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you. Thank you so much for joining us today at All Access Fest. We are very excited to present the Your Own Company, Your Own Legacy panel. And I am joined by three incredible heavyweights in music that I'm so excited to introduce you to. We have a bunch of fun questions that are really going to teach you about entrepreneurship and music, building your team, and forging your own path. So first up on the panel is Nikki Sanz. After graduating from Elon University, Nikki moved to Nashville and secured gigs with Live Nation, the Ryman Auditorium, CMA Fest, and eventually landed her first tour with Eric Church. After a career gigging in music, Nikki founded and became CEO of Gigs, a marketplace platform that is revolutionizing the way touring and live music professionals get hired. Nikki has raised $600,000 and has competed on Entrepreneur's TV show Elevator Pitch and has secured a deal with Netflix's founder and first CEO, Mark Randolph. Thanks for joining us today, Nikki.
Thank you so much, Carolyn.
Yay, Nikki.
Next up is Matthew Romero. Matt starts his LinkedIn bio with the words, "I believe together we are all more than capable of creating the life we want." And what a beautiful sentiment for today's discussion. Matt is the founder and CEO of both Jam Juice and Affinity Entertainment based in Nashville. His passion is to serve the music community and has scaled his business to over $10 million in revenue in the last 3 years, having worked with artists like the Chainsmokers, Loud Luxury, Chase McDaniel, Charlotte Sanz, Soulja Boy, and some of the biggest names in music today. Thank you for joining us today, Matt.
Thanks for having me, dude. I'm stoked.
Next up is Paulina Vo. Paulina started her career as a gigging musician and moved to New York City, Brooklyn, to be exact, to pursue her talents, eventually leading to an illustrious career in music tech, publishing, and now as co-founder of Highnote and the Digilog, which is one of my personal favorite communities in music today. Throughout her career, Paulina has not only built impactful communities and strong tech solutions, but she has also been a champion for diversity, equity, and inclusion throughout music and tech, making her one of the most sought-after leaders in our music industry. Thank you for joining us, Paulina.
Thanks. So happy to be here.
And lastly, myself, I'm Carolyn Ortiz. I've been working in our beloved music industry for over 15 years, starting as a self-taught publicist in the New York City blog era, specializing in emerging artists, brand partnerships, and curating live music events. While running my own music business, I also worked in corporate 9 to 5 with companies like Viacom and Chanel, helping to launch new departments and products. In 2015, I worked at UMG to launch the first global central brand partnership team at a major label. I've since then moved on to found Big.Ass.Kids, which is not only a record label, but has expanded into a full music ecosystem, serving our independent community through a record label, artist discovery projects, artist services, editorial, and our recently launched community called the BAK platform. So thank you for joining us. I think that we have some amazing information to share with you, some tips on how you can grow your own brand and your own company, and how you can do it your own way. So to kick off, we have our first topic. Approximately 100,000 music and tech professionals have been laid off in the last 2 years. Some sad news to start, but it's also really encouraging because most are still actively looking for work in the next big gig. There's a hustler kind of spirit going around music, and we're at a peak in the independent revolution amongst both artists and professionals. This creates a huge opportunity for new business. Can you guys tell us what sparked you to become an entrepreneur, and what has your independent journey been like? And I'd like to kick off with Matt.
I'm starting us off.
Yeah, you're going to start us off.
Sounds great. great question. Great topic. I just want to say thanks again to everybody for having me. It's an honor to be here alongside these lovely ladies and all their accomplishments. Pretty cool stuff. And thanks to everybody that's hopped on to listen in. I guess I know we have some time, but I'll try to keep it brief because I know we got a lot of great stuff to go over today. The biggest thing for me is when I grew up in the music industry. My mom was a touring musician, so I just had an instant love for the live music experience specifically. I knew that's where I wanted to be. I started booking music in college, and I moved to Nashville. When I moved to Nashville is when I think the light bulb kind of went off, and I know Nikki can speak to this and Paulina too. But and Carolyn, we talked about this on the phone when we connected, but it's really honestly baffling to see how antiquated the music industry is in their processes and procedures. So whether that be in the booking world, in the publishing world, in the label world, in the live industry, it really doesn't matter. When you look at it, there's a lot of room for innovation, a lot. So I think just rolling it back to that question and its origin of how many people are unemployed or whatever, it's a great time for opportunity. It's a great time to start your own thing or join something that somebody else is starting, because there's so much room for innovation right now. It's very exciting for me. And it's a big reason why I chose to really pursue Jam Juice, which is our music tech product that we're working on right now, and our newest brand. So it's very thrilling to wake up every day and to say I'm putting all of my efforts towards solving a problem, and it's an idea that is really attached to my heart and my soul. I love what I do. It comes with a lot of pulling your hair out, and it comes with a lot of challenge. But at the end of the day, it's really amazing to be able to wake up every day and say I'm trying to create structure for what is just a really cool industry. The music industry is awesome. That's why we're all here right now, I think, is because it's so fun and so thrilling. But yeah, I mean, that would be my answer for sure.
Really great answer. I think every time I talk to a music professional who's either gotten laid off or is trying to do their own thing, it is because of the love of music and the love of music artists and the respect for the art and how brave people in our industry are. So thank you for being part of our solution. Nikki, Paulina, up to you. Who wants to jump in next?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh my gosh. All of what Matt just said. There's something magical about this industry. It really is. I've heard people say that, we don't do it because we want to. We do it because we have to. We're in this. All of us are some kind of musicians. We love music. It's just we have to be a part of it. But for some reason, it's just still in the dark ages. It's crazy. And I think, explaining this industry to other people outside of it is so difficult. And it's been staying this way because this way has worked for so long, but there's so much cool innovation happening that's truly going to benefit. And I think it's stuff like this that you guys are putting on, and people who are attending at, that are going to actually move it to the future, to the 21st century. I moved to Nashville 6 years ago. I was just a gigging professional. I was working any live event in music venues, sporting events, TV and film, corporate trade shows, everything I can get my hands on. True gigging professional. And then I finally, got on the road with Eric Church and George Strait. And I decided when I was getting off the road that I just needed to get away from music. I think all of us can get kind of burned out maybe, or burned, and need to get out. And I started working in real estate. And after 6 months, I was like, no, we got to get back into this. And so dove back in. And that's when I started working for a tour manager as I was figuring out my next move, because there's really not a great progression. We're going to get into that, I'm sure. But I was staffing tours, and that's when I really saw the need for a place to connect. You said that so many people get laid off, or a lot of people left the industry after the pandemic. We got about 25% of people left, especially live events and touring. So that really just diminished that connection to get you that next job or that next whatever opportunity was going to be, which furthered the need for gigs. And I'm sure we'll get more into it, but that's where my passion is. We need more connection. We need to be in the 21st century. And there are just amazing products out there that'll get us there.
Yeah, and Gigs is one of them. I was blown away when I saw the platform. So shout out to you for creating it.
Thank you.
Paulina?
Awesome. Yeah. Wow. Y'all both gave just like, I don't want to reiterate the same thing, but basically very similar feelings around what the industry, I guess, was, what it's becoming, and kind of figuring out what part of that future we're a part of, right? You can obviously sign up and work with other folks that are building. I encourage that all the time. But you can also go out on your own and do your own thing. So, yeah, I mean, somewhat similar journey to everyone here. I was working in tech before, but obviously gigging on the side, making records, working on my own independent career, but doing a lot of music industry work. So doing a lot of the songwriting camps. I had like a female non-binary producers meetup group that would meet every week. Just doing kind of that kind of grassrootsy community building, mostly because I was trying to build my skill set. So I already had that like entrepreneurial spirit, right? Which I think we all do here. And then working in the tech space, working in a corporate environment, you have to balance your autonomy with listening to someone else, right? You either work for your dream or someone else's dream. You kind of learn that pretty quickly when you work in that world. So then eventually I was like, the ultimate goal is to be an entrepreneur. Don't know what that's going to look like yet. Still working on what that will be for me. But in the interim, I'm going to build my skill set and get to that point where I can then take that step. Fortunately, ran into my co-founders at one of those songwriting events that I was co-running, and eventually was able to leave my full-time job because we got funding. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like I just took the next step that made sense for my path and my mission. And the reason why I left, honestly, I really enjoyed my music publishing gig right before I went over and became an entrepreneur. And I was bummed. I was like, great, the one time I get the job that I like really love, I'm going to leave. But luckily got to stay in the music industry and work with musicians still. So yeah, my path is similar, but also still driven by the same passions, by the same things, and just more or less like taking up the next opportunity, right, that came up that made sense for what I wanted.
Amazing. So what it sounds like is that what sparked all of you guys in your independent journey is a love and a respect for music and our industry and the need to make it better, right? And we need more of that.
Yeah.
So next question for you guys. Our industry is global right now more than ever, with solutions being found for things like digital currency exchange in Africa, which was always a problem. And shout out to the team over at Even for disrupting the space. As entrepreneurs, we have the chance to think bigger on the type of businesses we can start. I call these new age indie services that were traditionally provided by a label, but now independent providers are available for hire, such as fan crossover into the US, rights and royalties management, and digital community building. What advice can you give someone on starting a business and choosing a niche business idea? And I'd like to kick off with Nikki.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I love this question. I would say number one, if you have this burning something is in your brain of this idea and you can't stop thinking about it. You're in bed and you're just like, you can't sleep. You can't stop thinking about it. And then you research more and you realize, oh my gosh, there's a need, especially in a niche market like music or some, within music in some place. If it is burning a hole in your brain, you have to do it. Like that's just, you're in this panel right now because you probably have an idea or you have a business. Number two, though, you have to like the idea and you actually might have to love it because it's going to kind of become your identity in some way. It's going to be your child. It's going to be your baby. You have to love it. If you're ready, Matt and I were talking earlier today, like if you are ready to like have breakfast, lunch, dinner, weekends, everything with this idea for 5 years, do it. You have to. Then validate this idea. So what I did right away was I got with the Entrepreneur Center here in Nashville. I made my business plan, which helped really answer a lot of questions for me to figure out what the plan's going to look like. Then I got focus groups. I did a lot of polling of like top industry people of is there a need for this? Would you use this? What would you pay for this? Well, like, validate it and get a wait list. So I got a wait list of about 1,000 over took, many months. But now that I had 1,000 people, now we could start beta testing. So definitely get a wait list, validate that idea, then get some mentors. That was the greatest thing that I've ever done is right away is getting mentorship and then sticking with a few of them that like really, really hit. And also even consider bringing on a consultant that you're really close with, get to know them personally first, that make sure that your lives align and your values do. My consultant has like been everything to me. And then my board of advisors that I've built. But then lastly is, and Matt and I were talking about this before, this is a really, really hard path if you're choosing entrepreneurship, especially in music. We just said how hard it is for the music industry to grasp change. It's difficult and it's lonely, and it feels like sometimes it's every single day you have to pick yourself up, especially if you're doing this alone. Like, you will be amazed at how much you can pick yourself back up and persevere. But know that I think that's the job description of an entrepreneur. And I'm going to stop talking, but those are probably all of my points there.
Those are really good points, and definitely ones that resonate with me personally. I think when you are on the grind and you pick this passion of yours that you can't stop thinking about, that you're eating breakfast and lunch and dinner with, and like you are in it can get really lonely, and because that's what discipline is. It's like shutting out all the distractions and just staying so focused with blinders on. It can feel really lonely. Push past that. I think that's awesome advice, one that everyone in business needs. It's okay. It's okay to feel lonely. That's not necessarily a bad feeling, right? It's just one that you have to learn how to live with and thrive in, and stay focused, stay on the grind, and like start to finish, keep going. Yeah. Paulina, do you want to jump in?
Thank you, because I was going to say, Nikki, you summarized it in a way that was just like so the exact bullet points you hit on like how to start the business and knowing whether or not to do it. I hope everyone took that down, because that's exactly what we followed. Oh yeah. For clarity too, I have two businesses. I have Highnote, which is my music tech startup, and Digilog, which is what I call like my passion company, organization, community. So it's interesting because it's like two different paths, right? One is completely bootstrapped, and then the other was this like very rigorous, like we have to find investors, like this is how we're validating the idea. I bring that up because regardless, we serve a similar community, but we serve two different kind of solutions. I hate using that word, but we serve two different solutions. That's a word. Sorry, guys. I can't think of a better one right now. And I say that because obviously with the Digilog, we're able to be a little bit more, we're so community focused. We don't have a product like that. We are here to serve the community, bring education, give indie artists an opportunity. It's a very different world. Obviously, we make revenue there, which is amazing, and that's new for us, and we're super bootstrapped. So that didn't come with the same, validation or focus groups or anything. That was more or less like, let's just keep trying stuff. And that continues to be our ethos at Digilog. We try new things, we iterate, we keep moving for the sake of the community. Highnote, very rigorous, very much like we have this set amount of money because we raised it this year, and we got to do these like 700 things with this amount of money. So just to that, like finding that niche, finding the business you want to build really depends on like what you're capable of, what you're able to do at that moment in time, and then the risks that you're willing to take. And then, yes, the loneliness and all that other stuff comes later. But that initial idea, I love that, Nikki. If it bothers you at night, like 1,000%. And
Got to try it.
yeah, and then if you fail, move on or move forward or try again.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. I think I really liked what you said, Paulina, about just kind of going with the flow of the community, right? And we talked a little bit about this on our phone call. It's that when you are building something new, make changes as soon as you can, right? Like I think entrepreneurs get stuck in their original idea, and it's so good to have a vision and to stick with integrity of what you're building, but do yourself a favor and pivot. Pivot when you need to pivot. Find solutions. You don't have to figure everything out your own. Hop on YouTube University. Pick up the phone for your mentor, like Nikki said. Ask questions and move on. Right? I think we get stuck so much in process and just trying to make it perfect. Move on when you know you need to move on.
Can I make a note about that, actually?
Yeah.
I think part of entrepreneurship is like, we are the ones with the crazy ideas, and we're like, I say this once a week at least, that we're throwing things at a wall and seeing what's going to stick. Like, everyone, I think, has heard that. Like, you have to just keep spitting out new things. And, you know, when I believe this marketing campaign and this thing, this is it. Oh my gosh, this is it. And crickets. And I realized I didn't actually find out if that's really what everyone wanted. I just thought this was it. And so when it went out and no one really cared, and it didn't generate any revenue, it didn't do anything. Quick, all right, that was it. We're not trying to push it anymore. We're moving on to the next thing, and recognizing, okay, Nikki, that was a fail, but thank God we have all these ideas. We're just going to keep going. Like, you know, you just have to keep moving on, because every time you do spit something out, something's going to stick. And if you read any book, I recommend Hacking Growth. It's an incredible book by Sean Ellis. It's about, you know, and I'll put it in the chat after, how all the major tech companies and startup businesses got huge based on this tiny thing they were just throwing at a wall.
Yeah, that definitely comes, just to add that, it definitely comes from the tech space for sure. I think that's where my co-founders at Highnote were all from tech. So I think that's where we're able to say, like, okay, this isn't working after X amount of time, like, next idea. Even if you spend so much time ideating on this one thing, it's like the advice we give to musicians sometimes, it's like, release a few singles or try a different content. What's the word I'm looking for? Try your content differently on a different platform, or do a different clip, or, you know, it's like this idea of like, something's going to stick. And if it doesn't, just the next thing, do that 17 times. But I think we come from a world where that didn't happen before,
Right.
for some of us. So it is harder to say, okay, I need to let go of this like idea I worked on for 4 weeks, you know, but then you're like, maybe I shouldn't work on it for 4 weeks. Maybe I'll work on it for 2 weeks and then, you know, hope it sticks. Right. So
MVP, that's our MVP, the most viable product. You're going to put out the thing that's good enough just to see how it does. And then you make it good. Don't make it good until you prove that that's something that everyone actually wants.
Yeah.
I still am not happy with gigs at all. Like, it's very MVP, but we are throwing out new things. Okay, now we can really make this robust. Now, I'm still really not happy with it, but
it takes a long time. I mean, look at how many different changes.
Welcome back, Matt.
Like, hi, Matt. What was the company? There is this one company that went through like 15 Apple. Like, how many different logos has Apple had? You know, and it's Apple, like, just keep changing. Or sometimes your idea is really good and you worked on it and it's perfect. It's just not the right time. Your community is busy with something else. You have to revisit it. So be flexible, be malleable, learn when to come back to it, because time is an incredible resource that we do not have any extra of, right? So make sure that you're using it wisely. Matt, did you want to jump into the question? The question was, what advice can you give someone on starting a business and choosing a niche business idea?
Yeah, sorry, I don't know. My Zettel like crashed. It was crazy. Paulina, your voice was like, it was like a DJ remix. Like, it was like, well, like it was weird, man. I don't know what happened. Okay, yeah, I got to hear some of Paulina's answer and then Nikki's. I really like, even just hearing Nikki's, like, I mean, she basically like gave like the playbook of like the first 5 entrepreneur books I read. So like, you know, there's not much more to add. The only thing I would add is, and again, sorry, Paulina, if you said this, but I think before you even start a company, one thing that I didn't do and that caused me to burn out was establish your why. I think that's extremely important. So like, it's kind of like outside of the question, because you asked like what are the, you know, steps to start a startup, but I think before you even think about doing a startup, you need to sit down and ask yourself, like, I mean, Nikki mentioned like all the things and obstacles and the road bumps that are going to come, and the friends that are going to stop talking to you because you don't hang out with them, and the family that calls you and says you're not visiting them enough. Like, this thing is not going to be easy. And in order to like persevere and do those things that Nikki was talking about, and I'm sure Paulina dove into it, the only way you're going to do that is figuring out who you are and why you're doing what you're doing. I mean, if you don't have that, you're not going to go far. You're not gonna swing with the heavyweights. So I would definitely encourage just anyone listening to this, like, and going through these things. Like, it's great to find a business concept. It's great to have passion for that stuff, but you got to first like really get down to the core of like who you are and why you're doing it, or else you're gonna burn out. I burned out, so I say this, learn from my mistakes. I burned out. I've been doing this for, I started Affinity almost 6 years ago, and the first 2 years were great, and then years 2 through 4 were really hard because I didn't establish that for myself. Coming on the other side of that now, but I would definitely, help. I want to help alleviate anyone else that's maybe at that starting stage. It doesn't matter how many advisors you have. It doesn't matter how much startup money you have. It doesn't matter what VCs you're connected to. It doesn't matter who your granddad is, who your mom is, who your dad is. You're not going to love this, and you're not going to go far unless you have a very strong why. So yeah, that's all I would add. And I'm so sorry if somebody already said that, because I'm sure
that was
a great ad.
That may have already been said, but
thank you so much. Okay, so topic number 3. Starting a business is hard work and often can't be done alone. As a leader, we have to know when the right time is to ask for help, and to when to bring on a partner who can help scale the business from an idea to the next big thing. Having a business partner has its pros and cons. What are some things to consider when building a business team from scratch? Paulina, can you kick us off?
I totally forgot this was going to be a question, so I'm glad I didn't include this in my previous answer. Since I'm a co-founder, it's a very different journey, right? I have folks who are literally in the same seat as I am that I can turn to and say like, hey, what do we think about this? What do we do here? Which is funny because it's still lonely. Nikki, I just wanted to add that. Somehow you still think you're the only one that feels away.
That's good to know.
You bring it to your co-founders and they're like, damn, man, I've been feeling that for weeks. You're like, wow. But yeah, in terms of finding a partner, it's interesting because I was just having this conversation with my life partner earlier, who also runs his own business. And he's like, why can't I find people like me? And I'm like, you found one person like you, your co-founder. And the reality is like, yes, there's a lot of folks in the world who can do a lot of amazing things, but we all have our strengths, right? And then there are very particular people like everyone in this room who can do the thing that no one else can do, but you still need help. So I think identifying the right people to work with you really comes down to their track record. This is how I look for it. I'm always like, what have you done in the past? What do you stand for? It doesn't need to be public. It doesn't need to be shiny. It just needs to be like what you're bringing to the table. For me personally, I'm like a no ego person. So very much like, where are you at? Do you have an ego? Are you humble? Are you willing to take feedback? Are you able to grow? Do you have that growth mindset, right? That kind of all fits in the same for me. And then just thirdly, like, what is your life mission? Are we all on the same mission here? Can we do the same thing? Are we going to run together? Those like aspects, the final 2 in particular, in terms of growth mindset, like how egoless they are, and then whether or not they have the same dream or idea. Like, I feel like those have been the main 2 things that have helped drive me in all of my business partnerships, because you're going to have to give each other feedback. No one talks about the uncomfortable conversation you have to have with your co-founders at any point in time. You're like, or executive team, whatever, right? Your leadership team. It's like, what's actually happening is like someone said something stupid. I said something stupid, like someone said something or did something that was wrong or didn't fit. And if you are an ethical company, ethical team, like you will have to have that conversation. And I hope we all are.
Yeah, I was like, yeah.
At least everyone here. But especially in the music industry, you're adding all these layers, right, to people and psychology, and the parts are there. So really, really honing in on those personality traits, and then also having, you guys are gonna hate me for saying this, have that operating agreement, have that ownership agreement. You got to have that too, because it's like, if those things don't fall in line a year down the road, you have to be able to turn to something and say, okay, we agreed on this. You didn't follow suit. We have to break our relationship now.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're really great points. Putting on your big girl panties, I think is what I heard you say when you need to have these big conversations, these uncomfortable conversations. They will come up. I live with my co-founder, love him to death, but sometimes it's like, okay, let's put on we're not boyfriend, girlfriend right now. We are co-founders, and we need to have this very real conversation. And it's hard, but I think as a founder, it's one of the skills we really, really need to have, like probably top 2 is like being good at what our mission is, but also being able to communicate. So thank you for sharing that. Matthew, Nikki, you guys want to jump in?
You go ahead.
Okay. So I guess just, going off Paulina, that's like incredible. Yeah. Anytime there's money involved, have an agreement. Yeah. That's what I've learned in my 5 years is even if somebody's like a really close friend or whatever, like have an agreement. It's protected you and them. But I think the other side of that is I think everything in life is a relationship. I don't care if you're doing sales. I don't care if you're finding new partners. I don't care if you're in a networking event. Like being good to people is going to get you really far. So a part of being in a relationship is reciprocal. So like actively listen. I think that's something that a lot of founders overlook is like they want to go into a room or a networking event and tell everybody about everything they're doing and all these cool things and how much money they're going to make and how they're going to impact the music industry. But how many questions are you asking other people and actually like giving them the time of day to listen? How many investors have you met with and actually asked them about their life? I mean, how many like board members did you bring onto your team and actually like understand their hardship? Like if you're going to go into this industry or any industry, I don't care what it is, you need to be ready to create very strong relationships. And the only way that you're going to do that is by being a very good listener and growing those relationships through a genuine care. I think when I first started in the music industry, I was that person. I wanted to go into I told Nikki, it's like my first year, I was going to every single showcase. I was going to every writer's round. That's a Nashville thing, isn't it, Nikki?
Oh gosh, yeah.
A writer's round. Yeah, whatever. We don't need to get into that now. But I go to events and I just want to talk about me. And I realized very quickly that I needed to go into those rooms asking way more questions than I was making statements. And when I switched that thinking and I started to ask and listen more than I talked, I found that I really started to develop relationships with people who genuinely cared about where I was going. You're going to have a core group, I think, through your journey, and it's hard to find those people. But if you can stick to those values, I think that you find them a little bit quicker, and those people will stick with you through everything. I've got 4 to 5 people, whether it's people that I consider best friends now, business partners, whatever it might be, that just really genuinely I know have my back. And like with those people in my corner, like I feel very confident going into any situation and tackling any challenge.
Man, I love all that so much. Actually, right. One thing I was thinking already is getting to know your advisors, your investors, your board members, whatever it is. My consultant that came on, I remember our first meeting, I was in that mindset of we grab, I think it was a drink or something. And I was like, this is gigs. And this is why I started it. And here's the pitch. And he goes, we're not talking about gigs. Tell me about your family. What's going on? Like, who are you? And I was like, what a waste of time. Oh my God. I literally don't know. Yeah. What? Get to know each other. 6 months go by. He's with me when one of the first tech companies basically screwed me over, took all of my money. It was a huge debacle. He was there. He saw the way that I was handling it. And he goes, all right, now we're ready to work. I had to see this. Let's go. And then he, is a huge part, Scott Welch, huge part of gigs and of my life. And then anyone that I would hire in, my accountant and my lawyer, he goes, go buy them breakfast, go to a bagel shop and coffee, and just don't talk about gigs, talk about their family and their life and get to know them. If they have the same values, if you feel like things are good with this person, do business with them. If something's off, you trust that right away and you just don't do it. You move on. That's probably the greatest piece of advice, because I've been doing gigs now for just over 2 years, and I've had to let go of 10 people, like, hiring this CFO or this lawyer or this, whatever it is. And it hasn't worked out. And if I'm honest with myself, and I feel like you guys might have experienced this too, I probably knew it before I even hired him on. But there's a time when I did this solopreneur journey. I was alone. So I was like, well, I need all the help I can get. I need this person in sales. Well, am I doing it out of just this necessity? And I feel like I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm lacking this. So I'm getting them on last minute without fully knowing this person represents the values of my company and me and the culture. How are they going to blend in with the team members? How are our meetings going to be? If anything is off, I got some amazing advice from Travis Terrell, CEO of Soundstripe. He said, as soon as you see there's not a culture fit, you get rid of as quickly as possible, because that's not going to change. You're not going to make someone more of a team player or talk about themselves less or whatever it is. Like, that is not going to change, and try to and just trust that gut instinct.
Yeah.
That resonates so deeply with me. We just dealt with this. Having to get rid of someone that like really, really like so passionate about Big.Ass.Kids, like showed up every day, but it just wasn't the right fit. And we knew it for months, and it took us a while, but incredible advice. Pivot, right? Pivot when you need to as quickly as you can. Yeah. So our last question, I think, is really important. Probably the biggest challenge for any entrepreneur is financial security, particularly in music, right? Almost 100,000 people have gotten laid off from full-time work. There is a real lack of financial security in music at the moment. Couple that with the cost of living and inflation skyrocketing, the cost of business operations being expensive. We see professionals moving outside of traditional music hubs like New York City, LA, and Nashville to save on cost, right? What real life advice can you give recent music grads and aspiring professionals that are listening as they start their career? And Matt, can you kick us off?
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes is, if you want security, go to prison. And if you want freedom, like, chase what you want to do.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which sounds extreme, but like, if you want security, you're in the wrong panel.
Yeah.
I think that, and I don't say that to scare people, but my point in saying that is, like, there's no point in the first 10 years of most startups that feel secure. I mean, I don't know if that's some people might disagree with me, but I mean, like I said, I've been doing this for 6 years, which is a lot less time than most people. And the advice that I've gotten from most people that have been doing it 5 times longer than me is, you have to be like the pivot thing that we were just talking about, like not just with the people that are working for you, but like your business strategies, all that stuff is going to change. So like, when I went into this, I think right before I got my first round of funding in 2020, I was working 4 jobs. Like, I was doing everything I could to make ends meet and focus on Affinity as well. There is no perfect solution to this, like, at all. Like, there's no formula. There's nothing like that. There's like drive, hard work, and being kind to people. Like, those are the 3 things. And through those 3 things, like, you're never really going to have security in like the beginning phases of a startup. You're just not. If you're looking to like go be a part of like a Live Nation or a Warner Chapel or something like that, yeah, like, you can clock in, work 8 to 5 and do that. And I'm not hating on that. I think that's a great way to live if that's how you want to live. But if you're somebody that's eager to make a change in this industry, you really need to get used to consistently shifting and evolving. You're going to have to change your business plan. You're probably not going to do, I don't know, Nikki and Paulina, like, when you guys started in the music industry, like, did you think you're going to be where you're at today?
No.
Exactly. Bro, like, me neither. Like, even when I started Affinity, if somebody told me 5 years ago when I started Affinity, our parent company, if they said, you're going to be building a music tech product for hospitality concepts and private buyers, I'd laugh at them. Like I would literally laugh at them. I'd be like, what are you talking about, dude? I'm a promoter. Like I just throw shows and like hang out and like drink beer, like chill. Like I'm not doing all that. So yeah, I guess that's very long-winded. Sorry, we only have 5 minutes. I don't want to take up all the time, but that'd be my 2 cents.
Nice. Paulina, Nikki, you guys want to jump in?
Paulina, you got it.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, by the way, my 5 years ago, you're right. I mean, I probably would have been like, wow, I did it finally. I will say I've always wanted to own my own business and do the thing, but I think in terms of it actually happening, for sure. I agree with both of those sentiments. I think just like as a TLDR in general, you said it right, and I was just gonna add, like, even when we are fundraising, what people are looking for, and Nikki, this is probably what happened to you too, is grit. People tell us all the time, do you have the grit to be an entrepreneur and run a business? It is unstable. It is a lot of pivot. It is a lot of growth. It's a lot of asking yourself, why am I here? Who am I? Like, what am I doing this for? And if you can get through those questions consistently over and over again and be ready to ask those questions again in 6 months, then yeah, you have the energy for it. And this is coming from someone, despite all this, I consider myself relatively like risk averse to everyone else in my entrepreneurial world. But I found, just back to the team building business partnership question, I found people in my world that are less risk averse than I am. They're not at all. But I get to balance that out by saying like, oh, okay, well, we should think about this. And they're like, crap, I should have thought about that. Thanks. But I'm willing to take enough risks to be in the business. Right. So that's the other part of it too. And yeah, take the break when you need to. That's another problem, is mental health as entrepreneurs. Like, no one talks about it. It is a grind. It is really, really hard. But, I eat well, I work out, and I meditate and go to therapy. Those are all parts of, you have to do all those things too. So it's like, just don't forget to take care of yourself if you're going to go down the path. And also, it's okay to fail. I'll just end on that. And don't let your ego get ahead of you. You can get back on it again. Everyone loves a comeback kid, right? So don't be afraid to start, fail, and start again, and then figure out whether or not it's meant for you.
Oh, all of that is so good, y'all. My goodness. I would say if you're working in the music industry, you are your own business, especially like, I was gigging. So I was a freelancer. I was doing all the different things. I was managing my own schedule. So clearly I've never really liked stability. I tried a 9-to-5 once. It didn't last long. I was like, prison, not for me. But then I'm over here crying because I don't have enough stability. And it's, no job is ever going to be amazing. I think that's something I've actually been thinking about this week, is like, okay, no job is actually going to be the thing that brings you joy, that makes you happy. No, like, I think when you're deciding what you're doing, you have to make a pros and cons list, and you have to decide the cons list, what looks less bad. And that's where you go. Like, no job is going to be amazing. So I just have to put that out there because it's something I'm telling myself. There's going to be cons in everything. And kind of with that, when I first started in this industry, I was doing the jobs I did not want to do, but it's the jobs you had to get to. So, starting in catering or starting in merch, being the first one in, last one out, but doing the really physical labor, whatever it is that are those first jobs that get you that next one, you have to do it. And have that mindset that like, this is going to get me to the next one. During COVID, I was tour managing a book, an author. We were doing her book tour. We pivoted to do it virtually. And then I ended up helping manage her restaurant and her farm. So I was on horseback, moving the cattle from field to field. And I was helping manage the restaurant and waiting tables, which I did not want to ever do again in my life. But I was doing it because it was getting me to learn how to run a business. Oh my gosh, look at that. I was figuring out payroll. I was figuring out all the things with the farm, the restaurant, and then seeing like, okay, I was able to do it there. Now I can do it here. And then I think the last thing is, you have to be crazy. You have to just see yourself as that thing that you want to see yourself as and know that you can do it. And I think it's just the most cliched thing to say, but none of us feel qualified for what we're doing at all, but we're just doing it. And I believe that doing this, I didn't get my MBA, but I think doing this is, even if this fails, I have my MBA. I learned so much. I met amazing people. Don't be as scared of failing, but also, let that fear of failure fuel you to get back up when someone steals money, when something goes wrong, and the next day is going to be a battle, and you're going to do it because it's going to get you to the next place too.
One more question. We have 25 seconds left. You all have secured funding. You have all gone through the grind. You've all had the bad days. You've all done the mental health, moments. In one word, when that check hit, how did it feel?
Not enough.
Okay.
It's not as relieving as you want it to be.
I would say validating.
Validating for the next 12 to 18 months.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But encouraging enough to keep going.
Oh, heck yeah.
Which is what we want everyone here to take away.
Sorry.
Sorry. We're
still
deep in it today.
It's still you though. It's still gonna make you work the next one. I tell you what.
It's hilarious, bro. I'm dead.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining. It's been a pleasure. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Awesome. That was a great panel. Thank you all for attending. Thank you all to our speakers and our moderator. You guys were amazing. I learned some things myself, took some mental notes for sure. If you guys asked a question in the Q&A and you didn't get it answered, be sure to go over to our rooms and find this panel title, and you'll be able to chat with our panelists and get those questions answered. So be sure to go over there for the after party. Say hello, ask them some questions. But we'll be back here in about 15 minutes for our next panel called Unique Pathways and Placements in Music Careers. So stay tuned for that, and we'll see you there.